In today's world, many people are seeking great things for themselves as they pursue secular education and secular work. Many believe that the key to success and the key to their and their family's happiness involves money and getting more material things, or a resting place in this system of things. Such thinking could influence us. If you're a family head, consider Chibisa. He's a brother in Malawi who, along with his wife and 7 children, were doing well spiritually. However, at one point, they faced financial problems. At times, there was not enough money to buy food for each day. How stressful. Like many others, Chibisa decided to go to South Africa to find work. That was a personal decision. But was it wise? Looking back, Chibisa said this: "This affected me spiritually because I did not know the language. I was unable to preach, and I did not benefit from the meetings. Being so far from my family caused me to neglect my responsibility as a family head. As a result, my family grew weak spiritually, and we all missed each other very much. I realized that I had made a wrong decision going abroad. My conscience started to trouble me greatly." You parents must also make personal decisions about secular education for your children. Naturally, you want them to get a good education, but you have to think carefully about potential dangers. For example, in some countries, parents send their young children away to boarding schools. The March 15, 1997 issue of The Watchtower discussed the scriptural principles involved and related a number of experiences highlighting the dangers. A brother named Clement said that before going away to boarding school, he loved the truth and enjoyed participating in the ministry, in family worship, and at meetings. However, he said, "Once I went into boarding school at the age of 14, I left the truth completely. Throughout the 5 years I spent in boarding school, I never attended meetings. As a result of bad company, I got involved with drugs, smoking, and heavy drinking."
Oh dear, poor Clement. So we've just been hearing some cautionary tales about education and pursuing a secular education and a secular career from Joel Dellinger. You can see where this is going. Again, this is the March 2025 JW Broadcasting episode, and Joel Dellinger really doubles down on the organization's anti-higher education position. He also is dealing here with personal decisions. He uses that wording a lot, personal decisions, but it's very clear from the way he expresses himself that a personal decision can be a wrong decision. In which case, does it really make any difference whether it's a personal decision or a decision that's being made for the individual by the organization, which is how we know it really is? A decision is either right or wrong in the eyes of God to a Jehovah's Witness. So what difference does it make calling it a personal decision? I think they're just trying to play it safe. He's just kind of covering all his bases to make it sound like this is a decision everyone's agreed upon, when of course it isn't. It's just something that is being enforced. And a good example is when he gives the story of Chibisa, this man from Malawi who travels to South Africa, as many do in poor countries. They need to work abroad for a period to provide for their families. And this is being frowned upon by the organization, because fathers in particular who do this aren't able to be spiritual heads for their families. In other words, they're not able to make sure their families stay on track with their religion. There's a higher possibility that the children might not make it as believing Jehovah's Witnesses. So what you have here is the organization very clearly putting its own interests ahead of the interests of its worshippers. And then you have this weird story about Clement from a 1997 watchtower, 28 years ago, folks. Because I was listening to this story thinking, why are they talking about boarding schools? You know, what world are we living in now? Are we in some kind of Harry Potter situation? I'm personally not aware of anybody from my Jehovah's Witness past who either went to boarding school or was in a situation where they felt pressured to go to a boarding school. But they just invent this bogeyman, this problem, by dredging up a 28-year-old story.
Let's consider one more situation. You younger Christians approaching adulthood must make decisions involving education and employment. There may be many choices, but which ones will help you live up to your dedication to Jehovah? One sister said this: as a baptized witness, I had read and heard about the dangers of pursuing university education, but I dismissed such warnings. I thought that counsel did not apply to me. Well, our sister made a personal choice in the matter, but was it a wise one? She continues, studying for my courses took so much time and effort that I was too busy to linger in prayer to Jehovah the way I used to, too exhausted to enjoy Bible discussions with others, and too tired to prepare well for the meetings. Thankfully, once I realized that being immersed in higher education was damaging my relationship with Jehovah, I knew I had to stop, and I did. Of what do these real-life examples remind us? In Satan's system of things, we will face challenges that test our determination to put Jehovah's will first in our lives. Like Barak, personal desires could distract us. If that ever happens, we need to take quick action to correct our viewpoint, as did Barak. Happily, through the Bible and spiritual instruction from the faithful slave, Jehovah helps us make better choices in personal areas of life, such as those involving secular education and secular work. At Psalm 32:8, he promises, I will give you insight and instruct you in the way you should go. I will give you advice with my eye upon you. We are wise to seek out such advice by doing research, by talking to mature Christians, and then applying such counsel.
I hope you've noticed that twice now Joel Dellinger has referred to secular education and secular work.
As they pursue secular education and secular work, Jehovah helps us make better choices in personal areas of life, such as those involving secular education and secular work.
Think about what that means. All you really have, if we're being honest, are work or employment, which is what most of us think of when we think of work, or education. It's not secular education, it's education. But they need to insert the word secular because, of course, they feel they are in the business of giving people education. And they are very much in the business of giving people work. It's just that you don't get paid for it. Or if you are perhaps a Bethelite, you get a small monthly stipend. But let's be real for a moment. Real work pays you, but work as a Jehovah's Witness doesn't. Real education educates you and prepares you for a career and the ability to provide for both yourself and others, whereas an education or indoctrination as a Jehovah's Witness serves only the organization. That's what this is really about. And that's why I feel so strongly, as I'm sure many of you watching this do, that the position on higher education is so disgusting. I really do struggle to hold it together when, again, I hear him talking about personal choices. And we even heard him say there that you can have a personal choice or make a personal choice, but is it a wise choice?
Well, our sister made a personal choice in the matter, but was it a wise one?
So straight away, Jehovah's Witnesses have permission to pry into other people's lives and see the choices they are making, personal choices that they are making, and comment on them. Because that's what Joel Dellinger is repeatedly doing here. He's reading real life experiences. Of course, most of them are probably made up, but he's reading about actual people. And then he's casting judgment on their stories using either the individual's own words or his own comments on the personal choices that they've made. And he's saying ultimately a personal choice doesn't matter whether it's personal or not. What matters is whether it's a wise choice, whether it's a correct choice from the point of view of the organization. And isn't it interesting that the correct choice or wise choice is always the one that benefits the organization, even if it comes at the expense of the individual?